In this video, I'm going to be showing you the tools needed to make your very own repro cart. So what I have here is a custom development cart that I created, and I'm going to show you the tools that you need as well as some of the parts that you'll need in order to create either this, any type of homebrew game, a repro, pretty much anything you want. One thing that I should point out about this one is obviously you notice a cutout here where I can remove this chip. This, I 3D printed this case. So if you wanted to do this piece of it, you would need a 3D printer. If you're just making a normal game, you can buy replacement cases. Some local game stores sell them, otherwise you can get them online in bulk lots. So we're going to start off with the first thing you're going to need is a programmer. So I use the Top 3000. This allows pretty much any chip size. And I'm going to be going over Sega Genesis in this video, but this pretty much will apply to almost any type of retro video game that uses an EEPROM. So this has a 48-pin slot connector. So the 48-pin ZIF. So this allows us to use the largest size chip that a Genesis would use. This is a original Genesis cart here. So this is a 42-pin connection. This allows for 48. There are other programmers out there. I actually had a GQ4X, but I could never get it to program with the 42 pins. Circuits that are needed for the Genesis, even with the 16-bit adapter. I spent countless hours trying to get it to work. Ultimately, I returned it and decided just to opt for the Top 3000. Nice thing with this programmer is you can fit any chip size in here for the most part, and you're never going to need an adapter. Some of the other programmers, they're a little bit cheaper, but you need all these adapters and it's more points of failure. When I went on the support forum, they wanted me to desolder chips on the board and then resolder them. I'm buying an out-of-the-box, tool to do what I want it to do. I don't want to have to tear it apart, resolder it, and then not be able to return it. So ultimately, I chose just to return it, get this unit, has not failed me since. Definitely recommend the Top 3000. It's more geared towards the automotive industry, but it works great. So that's the first thing you're going to need as a programmer. Next up, you have two options. One is you could take this board, desolder the pins. Do not recommend that. What I recommend are these. Now there's multiple companies that make these. This is from Second Dimension. I'll leave a link to the description in their website down below. They also have an eBay store. I know Muramosu also makes these. There's several companies that make replacement boards, and that's exactly what this is. This is intended to make repros or homebrews. So you just slot it in here. There's a 2 meg pad and a 4 meg pad. So based on whichever chip you're using, you can solder those together. It has spots for capacitors. I've never had to use the capacitors, but it has everything that you need, and the traces are all here as well. I've never had a problem with these boards. I highly recommend these. Next up, you're going to need some EEPROMs. So I get these off of eBay. There's multiple EEPROMs that you can use. I choose to use the 322, so it's the M27C322, as you can see down here. I opt to use these ones for every Genesis cart I make. You can use, so this is a 4 megabyte cart, 4 megabyte EEPROM rather. So you can use smaller ones, but then based on the game size, you might use a smaller one, you might use this one. What I do is I just byte fill all of my games with blank spaces at the end so that they'll work on here. And the programming software can do that for you. There's no special coding in your game needed for that. And then next up, you're going to need a soldering iron. So this is the one I use. I like the setup on this just because it's more of like a stick. I find it really easy to hold. It's got the adjustment right here to adjust the temperature. And I prefer the chisel mount type of tip. So if you look here, it actually is almost like a flatbed screwdriver. That allows me, when I pop the pin through here, the chip, I can just hold it and solder it all the way down. Very easy. So this is the one I recommend. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well as the stand I use. I get both of these off of Amazon. Next thing is the solder. So this is the solder I use. You do not need anything thick. In fact, you don't want anything thick. So this is a 6040 resin core. So this is what I use. Works great for me. The next thing that you're probably going to want, especially if you are thinking about making your own development cart, similar to what I did, and you want to remove the chip, program it. If you don't want to buy hundreds of these chips, they tend to be around $1 each on eBay. Then what you want is you want a EEPROM eraser. So these are EEPROMs, they are not EEPROMs, which means the only way to erase these is with UV light. So that is what this little window at the top here is. It's for UV light to get in there, and it will, if you run for 20-30 minutes, it will fully erase the chip. It'll start corrupting because it will be erasing bytes by bytes, and then as long as you leave it in there long enough, it will erase the whole thing. So this is just a cheap EEPROM eraser. It's 10-minute increments. So this one can do anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. And it just has this little drawer here. You could put in 4 or 5 EEPROMs to erase at the same time. And that will allow you to erase the EEPROM and put another game on it. So if you're just using it for debugging, or you're testing a prototype and then you know you're going to make changes, you can just pop it in, erase it, burn the new chip using the programmer, and then you would just pop the chip in here. It would just line up, you know, right in here, and then you would solder the back ends of that. A couple other things that you're probably going to want that will make your life easier. If you are desoldering, obviously you need a desoldering pump, or more preferably a desoldering iron. You will also want some IC pullers. So that's what these are. These are 2 different styles of integrated circuit pullers. These work really well. I prefer this one, actually the black one. And that's mainly because it will allow me to actually pull out circuit this way. So I can just get it down in here, clamp it, and pull it up and out. You can pull it side to side, but you just have to watch because all the pins are right here. You don't want to damage those or bend or break those. So technically that's all you need to do it. An IC straightener is definitely preferred. I do not have one in front of me right now, but basically what an IC straightener does is you put this into it, you press both sides, it's got a spring, and it'll actually straighten out all these pins for you. When you buy these, they're going to be angled out and they won't fit directly on the circuit board. So if you look here, if I put this side in, this side does not go in until I start bending it. You can, a lot of people with experience, they will take these and they'll bend them like on a table. You'll know how much pressure if you do this a lot, or the IC straightener is definitely the way to go. I'll link one of those on Amazon as well in the description below. And then that basically actually gets your game up and running for you. The next thing that I like to do is put my own label on it. So to do my label, I use these. So these are Avery 8165. They're just a full sheet shipping label. So it's a full 8.5 by 11 sticker for the most part. What I do is I design it. I have a Cricut printer, or rather a Cricut cutter. So what I do is I design my logo in Photoshop, my whatever I want the label to look like. Import that into the Cricut software. I print it with my printer. That'll print it out on this. And then what I do is I use a laminator. I laminate the entire sheet using this laminator. That'll give me a laminated label for the most part. It's still one full sheet. And then I have this. This is the Cricut Explorer 1. You can get these on Amazon. I'll link that as well. You can get these at Walmart. Almost any craft store will have these. And the way this works is it is actually a full paper cutter. So whenever you print out your label, it'll actually have a border around it. You feed that into here and it'll go through and it will cut out the label for you. So if you notice here on this label, I had this little notch up and over. I did not cut this myself. The printer cut this for me. So it fed through. This is just a blade here. It'll go through and cut it out for you. Very simple. If you guys are interested in the whole label printing and cutting process, definitely leave me a comment below, let me know. And I will definitely consider doing a video on that in the future of just the label printing process. But in this video, I just wanted to cover the tools that are needed in order to kind of make your own homebrew games, or if you want to make repros, you know, that's fine too. The only thing I ask is if you are making a repro, that on the label you do put reproduction, or you use a reproduction label that is found online that actually states reproduction. But for the most part, you know, you can do these nowadays. You can do it with all brand new parts. You don't need to tear apart old carts or anything like that. So we've come a really long way. But definitely leave me a comment below. Let me know if you're interested in the label printing video, and let me know your thoughts on, you know, if you make home brews, if you're interested in making home brews. As I mentioned in a previous video, I want to do some more Genesis homebrew / development type videos. So definitely leave me a comment below if you're interested in that. And thank you for watching.